What's up guys, Metal571 here today, and we're going to be talking about the Mod House Audio Argon. This is a really interesting headphone. This is a T50RP Mark II modification, and I'm a big fan. We'll talk about why that is throughout the review. So, as I said, this is a Fostex T50RP Mark II. It's physically modified. There's a lot of mods for this headphone out there because the headphone in its stock form tends to not be tuned particularly well. So a bunch of people have realized that the driver can output some pretty serious sound quality, but in its stock tuning, it's not exactly ideal. So that's why there are so many of these different mods. ZMF headphones started out modifying this driver and these headphones and the enclosure and replacing the ear cups with wood and whatnot. In this case, we've pretty much mostly kept the ear cups intact, but again, there's a proprietary modification on these guys. So, Mod House Audio is basically just like an independent audio company that does a bunch of adapters, and this is their headphone. I'm sure they'll do some more headphones in the future, but this is the one, this is their T50RP mod that they're known for. So what makes this one a little bit different than other Fostex mods? We've got this hand-stitched deerskin suede comfort strap up here at top. Very, very comfortable. Much better than resting on this like basically piece of rubber that usually is there by default on these headphones. This has the ZMF pads on it. I believe, judging by how these feel, I think it would be the lambskin option. You have the option of ordering it with the stock pads, but I don't think they're tuned for the stock pads. So if you already have ZMF pads, you can use your own instead of ordering them with it. But generally, I believe this is tuned for ZMF pads. So if you don't already have some, you should check that option on the list when you buy these. It comes with two cables. I believe actually that is a default now. The default cable, I believe this is actually, the stock Fostex cable. Just it's removable, which is still really nice, and allows for, and it just terminates in a 1/4 inch. And allows for other compatible cables like the V-Moda cable, this one, to be used with it as well. So it works pretty well. I believe both of those cables are included. By default, no upcharge there or anything like that. You can also add this case. Get some things out of it first. You can also add this case here, which is pretty nice. You know, it's nice to store your headphones in when traveling. Cases are always a plus. There is an extra charge for adding the case, but hey, if you want to keep this thing for a long time, I would totally recommend that. Now, what's next? Comfort. Let's talk about comfort. Oh man, these are great. So the one thing that's awesome about this mod in particular is because it's not using any like wood or anything, it's actually quite a bit lighter than some other mods that have been done with these headphones, and that makes this so much more comfortable by default almost. And when you combine it with the pads and the strap up here, you really get a really nice, pretty much forever wearing kind of a headphone. The pads are big, they're really cushy. I mean, look at that. That's just, I love CMF's pads. But anyway, and then the headband's very soft, very supple, distributes the weight of your head very, very evenly. It's very well designed. So I don't think you'll have any problems with these in terms of wearing time. So now let's get into the sound. So let's talk about the bass first, as usual. The bass here, I would definitely say, is elevated above neutral by many definitions of what neutral is. I'm getting into that in a video in the future. But for me, I think it's awesome. It's very punchy, but it's not bleeding into the mids or anything. It's got a pretty smooth transition from pretty much the upper bass and the mid bass into the mids. So it doesn't have this like boomy effect, though there is a slight emphasis on the mid bass and a slight emphasis on the mid to upper bass, basically. Not trying to make a pun here, and then the sub bass is just a little bit lower in level, but it's very close. So really, this is just so satisfying to listen to EDM with this thing. Wow, just awesome. If you like electronic music, this might be one of the better options you'll find. It's definitely what I would expect from a planar magnetic driver, which is known for being able to extend very, very, very deep in the bass and maintaining that tight, powerful, punchy note. And these definitely hit that mark. No problem at all. Mid-range. I really have no complaints about the mids on these. I think some people might find them a little bit withdrawn, but for me, again, perfect. It should be noted that I talked to the guy who makes these things, and he specifically said he focused a lot on damping as much as possible, and it really shows. These really have a very, very, very uncolored mids for me, and no cupped hands coloration at all. You really don't have any of that cheap sounding closed back kind of a honky sound. There's none of that here whatsoever. It's been very, very well damped, very carefully modified to make them sound just pretty much transparent there. So I really like the mids. There's nothing I would not touch them at all with EQ. That's the biggest compliment I can give here. However, the treble is a bit of a mix, in my opinion. So I think the treble is a bit forward here. I think it depends on what amp you're using. It wouldn't surprise me if some people find the treble just fine, even if they're using the same amp and DAC I am, which is, I mentioned it before, but it's a Magni 2 and a Modi 1 right now. It sounds to me like there's a clear 10K peak going on here. The measurements that Modhouse Audio takes says that they have a clear 8 to 10K peak. In listening, for some reason, it seems like they have just a tiny bit of an elevation in the low treble as well, but maybe I'm going crazy. I don't know. But it's always possible, guys. It's always possible. But the treble is a little hot for me. I think it might bother some people, but not other people. And again, maybe amp dependent, pad dependent, all of those things. So it might not bother you. But what's important to note here is that when modifying this headphone, you kind of have two options. The first is leave the peaks where they are, because there are some sort of natural treble peaks going on in the driver of these, and leave that detail there. Or you can try to eliminate the peaks, but then you will take off a lot of other frequencies along with it when you try to remove them. And that's something that I kind of found with the ZMF T50RP mods, was that the upper treble above 10K was kind of real soft and real muted, and these have more treble extension than some of the other ZMFs I've reviewed. However, in order to achieve that, there's also the peaks at 10K and 8K left. So, but in my opinion, I actually think this is a better idea, because I'd rather have that treble extension there and then just EQ out the peaks than physically modify it and kill some of the upper treble extension. So you've kind of got that, choice. I've talked to some 250RP modders. That seems to be the consensus. I don't do these things myself. These guys know a lot more about the damping than I do in modifying this headphone. I'm just here to tell you how they sound. All right, and isolation. Now, this was a little disappointing. These are marketed as a closed back. They isolate. They're supposed to isolate. I found that the isolation was actually not so great. I think it was less than average. Definitely not. Very few things isolate like a 280 or 380 Pro, for example, or an SRH 440. These are definitely not that. They muffle some sound when you put them on your leg, to try to hear. At least that's what I do. Maybe I'm going all nuts, but I play the headphones and then I put them around my leg and hear the difference. Basically, that's kind of how I judge isolation versus other headphones. But anyway, yeah. So they seem to still be a little bit open. So there are some vents back here, and they may not have been completely covered, and that may be part of the tuning of the sound. So I wouldn't mess with it. I would just say, just know that with these, you're not really going to isolate a ton, so you might bother people with them in an office if you're sitting right next to somebody and you're trying to play them loud. But otherwise, you could probably get away with this in some office environments. But again, it's just not as much as some other headphones. Soundstage, oh man, this is really a big plus for these headphones. For what they cost, the Soundstage is unbelievable. It is probably the best soundstage to price ratio I may have ever seen, and that's saying something. So Soundstage is crazy. these really don't sound closed, and part of that reason may be the trade-off with isolation that I'm hearing, which wouldn't surprise me. But the fact that they even isolate as much as they do, having super wide soundstage, is pretty great. Totally awesome. I'm not great at describing soundstage. You guys probably have noticed that by now, but I don't know. With these, I hear a wide stage with good imaging. That's it. There's nothing more to say. It just sounds like an open headphone without being completely open, and that's always good. It's right up there with the ZMF stuff. It's that good of a soundstage. Really impressive. I think that was helped with the careful damping. Combining that careful damping with proper tuning gives you a great soundstage and really neutral sound from the bass through the mids. So I think that was really nicely done there. And as far as equalization goes, you'll find in the description, as always, my preset. For these, I really pulled down 10K quite a bit. 6 to 10K, I kind of scooped that out a decent amount. And after that, these are just sublime for me. It's just a wonderful emotional experience, and that's kind of where I want to conclude on this. I review a lot of headphones in this hobby, but it's not often that I get a pair that's just emotionally like satisfying and enjoyable and just fun. And I really tend to love headphones that are going more for that fun, enjoyable sound, because at heart, I'm just a music lover, not really a pro engineer, an audio engineer. So that's definitely where these stand. A total music enjoyment headphone right there. And at the price of $224, it is hard to go wrong. So now this price has come up slightly. The owner of Modhouse Audio, he said that the T50RP Mark IIs are sold out. You guys probably know if you've been following the production of this headphone, but thankfully the T20 and T40RPs are very similar, if not the same driver, so the tuning will just be applied to those. But unfortunately, the cost has gone up just a bit. Still, though, come on, this is awesome sound quality for $224, and that's exactly what I'm trying to say here. A lot of headphones are not perfect, but what I try to do is, I think one of the most important things in this hobby is judging value of headphones, and these have it 100%. So there you go. That's the Modhouse Audio Argon. I think it's probably the best T50RP price to performance headphone I've heard, at least for the modding community. This is the best one, at least the one I like the most that I've heard so far. Interestingly enough, and this is kind of a side note, I actually have an LFF Paradox sitting over here thanks to a member of the Headphones Discord, and I am just reminded again how hilarious some of these mods cost compared to this thing. That is like $600, has way leaner bass, nowhere near as clean of a sound, and that's crazy because this just goes to show you that these are an awesome value. And what I want you guys to take away from this is, if you're interested in a T50RP mod headphone, this is the one I think you should try first. It's got the most enjoyable, fun tuning sound that you'll find, I think, from any of the headphones in that price range for that mod. Thanks, guys, and shout out to Modhouse Audio for providing this review pair. As usual, follow me on Twitter. I'll be updating you with the next video. I got a lot of stuff coming up. I got a HD 202. I just grabbed an HD 650 to replace my 600. I'm renting some stuff from Lumoid, so yes, the Odyssey LCD 3 will be in my hands soon as a rental. I also ordered the Sine and the Momentum M2. In the future, there'll be a DT 1990. Ant Lion wants me to do a Mod Mic 5, etc. There's a lot of stuff coming up. I'm trying to accelerate the review schedule here so you guys get more stuff without compromising on the quality, of course. So thanks, guys. I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.